You wake up, feel that familiar stiffness, and reach for a stretch. Arms out, back arched, maybe a big yawn. That full body stretch you've been doing since you were a kid. It feels like exactly what your body needs. And for most of your life, it probably was. But after 50, that same stretch, the one that feels so natural you do it without thinking, can quietly work against you in ways that build up over time. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which stretches are doing more harm than good in the morning and what to do instead to actually protect your joints, your back, and your energy for the rest of the day. And stay with me, because toward the end, I'm going to tell you about one specific thing most people do in the first 5 minutes of waking up that makes every single stretch less effective. It has nothing to do with how you move, and almost nobody connects it to their morning stiffness at all. Before we get into the stretches themselves, there's something I want to flag right now so it's in the back of your mind. Most people think morning stiffness is just about tight muscles. It's not. There's something else happening in the body first thing in the morning, something that changes how your tissue responds to movement. And if you stretch without understanding it, you're working against your own biology. We'll come back to this at the end, and when it clicks, it'll reframe everything you just heard. Here's the thing about getting older that nobody really prepares you for. The habits that served you well for decades don't always translate. That morning stretch felt good at 30 because your body was resilient enough to absorb it. Your connective tissue was pliable, your joints had a wider margin for error. After 50, that margin gets smaller, not because something is broken, but because your body has genuinely changed. Collagen production slows, the fluid that cushions your joints takes longer to warm up in the morning. Your tendons become slightly less elastic, and the tissue around your spine needs more time before it's ready to be loaded. None of this is your fault. Nobody handed you a manual when you turned 50, but now that you know, you can work with your body instead of working against it. So let's go through the stretches that most people do every morning without question, and the ones that are quietly adding up to a real problem. The first one almost everyone does. You're still in bed, maybe half awake, and you reach both arms overhead and point your toes in the opposite direction. That full body elongation stretch. It feels incredible, and here's what most people miss. In the first few minutes after waking, your spinal discs are still fully hydrated from the night. They've absorbed fluid while you slept, and they're actually at their most compressed and vulnerable right when you first get up. Pulling hard in opposite directions before the spine has a chance to decompress gradually puts real pressure on those discs. Over time, not in one morning, but over months and years of the same habit, this contributes to the kind of low back sensitivity that sneaks up on people after 50 and never quite goes away. One morning doesn't change much, but the same choice made every day adds up in ways that are hard to reverse. The safer move is to let your body wake up for 2 or 3 minutes before you stretch at all. Swing your legs to the side, sit up slowly, and let gravity and movement do the early work before you add any intentional pulling. Now, before we get to the next one, and this is the one that surprised me most when I looked into it, I want to make sure you understand why timing matters so much, specifically after 50. Your body doesn't just need different stretches, it needs them in a different order. That changes everything about what's coming next. The second stretch is the seated toe touch. You sit on the edge of the bed or on the floor, legs straight out, and reach forward toward your feet. This one gets recommended everywhere. It's in every beginner flexibility routine ever made. And here's where it becomes a problem after 50. When you do a deep forward fold with a cold spine, especially first thing in the morning, you're rounding the lower back under load while the supporting muscles are still completely inactive. The hamstrings pull on the pelvis tilts, and the lumbar spine takes the strain without any muscular protection around it. For people over 50, this is one of the most common contributors to that nagging low backache that shows up mid-morning and you can never quite explain. It's not dramatic, it doesn't feel dangerous in the moment, but here's what's catching people. The stretch feels like it's helping, so they keep doing it, never connecting it to the discomfort that shows up an hour later. A gentle, seated forward lean with a slight bend in the knees and a focus on hinging at the hips rather than rounding the spine does the same job without the risk. But here's where it gets more serious, because the next one doesn't just affect your back, it directly affects your neck, your shoulders, and something most people don't think about until it's already a problem. The third stretch is the neck roll. Slow, full circles, front, side, back, the other side.
It's been in gym warm-up routines for decades. It looks gentle. It feels like self-care. Here's the part that nobody warns you about. The cervical spine, the 7 vertebrae in your neck, is surrounded by arteries, nerves, and delicate joints that become more vulnerable with age. Rolling the neck in a full circle, particularly tilting the head back, compresses the small facet joints at the back of the neck and can put brief pressure on the vertebral arteries that run alongside the spine. This isn't something you'll feel immediately, but for people over 50, especially those with any early arthritis or stiffness in the neck, it can contribute to dizziness, headaches, and over time, a gradual worsening of neck mobility. We're about halfway through, and what's coming up next is honestly the part most people never hear about. Most doctors don't bring it up unless you ask. The replacement here is simple. Slow side-to-side turns and gentle ear-to-shoulder tilts only. No backward extension, no full circles. The fourth one is the standing quad stretch. You stand on one leg, grab your ankle behind you, and pull your heel toward your glute. For balance, you might grab a wall or a door frame. Here's what most people don't realize. Your balance and proprioception, the body's sense of where it is in space, naturally decline after 50. Standing on one leg immediately after getting up, before the nervous system is fully alert, and before the stabilizing muscles around your ankle and hip are awake, is when most falls happen. And a fall at 50 or 60 or beyond is a very different event than a fall at 30. This isn't about being overly cautious. It's about the fact that the risk is highest in the morning, with cold muscles on a potentially slippery floor before you've had coffee or fully oriented yourself. The quad stretch is a good stretch, done later in the day after a short walk with full balance and muscle activation, not in the first 10 minutes of waking up. And remember what I mentioned at the start? We're almost there. The thing that connects all of this, it'll make sense in just a moment. The fifth stretch is the spinal twist. Lying on your back, you pull one knee across your body and let it fall to the opposite side. This one actually has real benefits later in the day. But in the morning, the lumbar spine and the SI joint, the sacroiliac joint at the base of the spine, are at their stiffest. Rotating them aggressively before the surrounding tissue is warm puts torque on a joint that isn't ready for it. After 50, the SI joint is one of the most common sources of deep, hard-to-place lower back and hip pain. This stretch is worth keeping in your routine. Just move it to the afternoon or after a 10-minute walk when the joint is already moving freely. This isn't just about numbers on a chart. This is about how you feel when you get out of bed, whether mornings feel like something you ease into or something you're fighting against. After 50, this isn't a future concern. It's a right-now concern. And the good news is that small, specific changes to what you do in the first 10 minutes of the day compound in a very real way over weeks and months. Now, the thing I mentioned at the very beginning, the one habit that quietly makes all of these stretches less effective, that has nothing to do with how you move, it's hydration. Specifically, the fact that most people don't drink any water before they start moving in the morning. After 7 or 8 hours without fluid, your joint cartilage is mildly dehydrated. Your spinal discs are at maximum density and compression. Your connective tissue is drier and less pliable than it will be at any other point in the day. Stretching in that state is like trying to bend a leather belt that's been in the sun. It gives a little, but it doesn't move the way it's supposed to. And over time, the repeated stress of dry, early morning stretching on already stiffening tissue contributes directly to the kind of chronic tightness people over 50 chalk up to just getting older. A glass of water, just one, before you move, before you stretch, before you do anything else, changes the internal environment your tissue is working with. It takes 30 seconds, and it makes every stretch that comes after it safer and more effective. You know the 5 stretches now. You know which ones to retire, which ones to keep and simply move later in the day, and you know the one habit that changes the baseline before you even begin. Starting tomorrow morning, you can make a different choice, and it doesn't require equipment, a program, or an appointment. Small changes made consistently are what actually move the needle, and now you know exactly where to start. If this was useful, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if you know someone who does the neck roll every morning, do them a favor and share this with them.